Well, hi everybody, it's Bob Ost. And it's Friday and it's May 19th. Is it the 19th or the 12th? It's the 19th. I Time just means nothing. I mean, ever since shutdown, I've had no sense of time, no concept of when it is or where I am. So we do these things on Friday. This is the TRU Community Gathering. For those of you who don't know us, Theater Resources Unlimited is an organization that's been around. This is our 30th year. 30th year, yeah. And we've been doing a lot of stuff for the community. Basically, we basically have been helping theater artists, theater professionals, particularly producers, understand and navigate the business and be more successful, hopefully, in the business. We have training programs, we do all sorts of stuff. And one of the things that happened in 2020, I'm sure you remember, is suddenly the world was like upside down. The world was suddenly closed. We had to go into quarantine because of COVID. And I had an organization that was based in New York and did all these live programs, and it was like, oh God, what am I going to do now? I can't have my programs. What am I going to do? And somebody took my hand and introduced me to Zoom. I had no interest in Zoom. I had none at all. It's like I wasn't a tech person. I have somebody in my organization who's been begging me for like 7 years to go virtual so that we would be global. It's like global, oh boy. How are we going to do that exactly? Well, COVID came along and said she was right. So we basically started opening up a room on Fridays, every Friday, since April 17th, 2020. This is 156th consecutive week. And we started having people come into the room, theater professionals, people part of the TRU community. Remember how I said that we were a New York-based company? Well, suddenly we were no longer that New York-centric because of COVID and because of shutdown and because of Zoom, this wonderful place we're in right now. We have people coming in from all over the country, and we actually have had, over the past 3 years, we have people from all over the world. So here we are. 3 years later, we're no longer in an emergency state. World Health Organization has declared that COVID is no longer a world threat. We now have dropped our COVID precautions here in the United States, and we're trying to approach the world that we used to know and function in it the way we used to, live and in person. However, I think we had some good lessons from COVID and from shutdown. I think we learned the value of a global community, the value of being able to have a room full of people that are not necessarily in the same city, in the same location, but get to meet each other and basically interact with each other and help each other sometimes even. So I'm kind of a Zoom fan now. And I kind of like being virtual and being able to have people together. And we started 3 years ago. I realized I didn't know how to do a virtual benefit. I didn't know how to email people a chicken platter. I had no idea how to do that. So we created in 2021, we created the first TRUSpeak Gala. Instead of trying to recreate the live experience, we tried to embrace the virtual experience. And we decided, or I guess I decided, that I wanted to have people submit short plays and talk about social issues. Shutdown was also a period when we had to look at ourselves real hard. There are a lot of stuff that we had to look at that maybe we could have ignored before, but being in shutdown, we saw it all. And I decided that this was an opportunity for us to talk about what's going on in the world. And I asked people to write plays about issues that are going on and things that matter and things that need to change, maybe. Pretty much, yes. And in my opinion, a lot of things need to change. So here we are. This is our 3rd year of our TRUSpeak Gala. And today I'm inviting into the room the directors of the five plays in our benefit this year, and the person that sort of oversees all the technical aspects of it. And we're going to talk about, while everybody else is rushing into the live world, I'm kind of fond of the hybrid world. We're going to talk about hybrid. We're going to talk about theater and film, and how to put the two together and make something that's viable and of interest and worthwhile. So I want you to meet my guests today. My guests today are also the people that have been working their asses off for the past, I don't know how many, 2 months, to make this happen for everybody. Hold. Jordan, you can turn on your video if possible, and I'll invite you all. And Miriam, you're here. That's wonderful. So I have Iben Cenholt, who helped create TRUSpeak event in the first place. I wouldn't have been able to do it without her. One of the things that we talked about from the start was that if we're going to have a virtual benefit, tech needs to have a place at the table. And we talked about creating a situation in which, from the very start, we would have a tech person and a director and a writer as a team, so that they could get some guidance into what could actually be achieved and what was viable. So, Iben, thank you for all the help that you've given in creating this event. And I just want to quickly introduce the 5 directors. I'm going to ask you guys to say just a quick hello. Misti Wills, tell us what you're directing and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Misti Wills. I'm directing Mrs. Dobbs American, and I am primarily a theater director of plays and musicals, currently casting a musical right now. So this has been a nice adventure into the film world for me.
Yeah, we gave a lot of people a push. We did. Epiphany, so good to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you've directed.
Yes. Hey, I'm Epiphany Samuels. I am the director of Socially Distant by Phil Darg. Mainly an actress, but I do it all, write, direct, produced for about 6 years, had my own theater company about almost the whole 6 years. So yeah, we are here and I'm excited for this.
Thanks for everything that you've done. I'm so grateful to all of you. Ben, tell us a little bit about yourself and about Ditmas. You're kind of a media figure. A lot of people know you.
Cool. That's always good. That's what we want, right? As performers, you know. Hey, I'm Ben Rauch. I was born in Queens, but I grew up in New Jersey, and I claim wherever I need to claim. If somebody doesn't like Jersey, I go, oh, Queens. I'm from Queens. During the pandemic, I ended up acting and directing. I've been working with Theater Breaking Through Barriers for years, and I directed 3 Zoom plays to that, and it opened my eyes up to this whole hybrid live. It was live, but we use different cameras and different angles and things like that, and it's an art form that has never existed until this pandemic happened. So it really fascinates me, and it got me thinking in new artistic ways. And I'm director of Ditmas, who's written by Glenn Alterman, who's like a legendary playwright. I had all his monologue books on my shelf, and I was like, Glenn, oh my God. So I'm really grateful, and I'm happy. It's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to being here and talking today.
Thanks, Ben. Miriam, your turn.
Hi, I'm Miriam Eusebio. I'm the director of Reprieve by Lee Rothko. I'm mostly a director. I'm also an actor, a little bit of singing. And I've, of course, produced so that I could direct. It's not my forte.
Well, welcome to TRU, where we actually encourage everybody to produce, because rather than wait around for opportunities, produce yourself.
Yes. So I'm really glad to have this opportunity. It's been a real adventure, a real challenge, and I'm grateful for TRU for a lot of reasons, and so I'm glad to be here tonight.
Well, thanks, Miriam. Jordan, your turn.
Hi guys, my name is Jordan Richards. I'm the director of Guellen, Kansas. Is there a big echo or is it just
Yes.
my hearing now? Oh, shoot. Sorry, I'm in a stairwell on my break from work to do this, so sorry about that. But I'm the director of Guellen, Kansas, so the editor, and it's a fantastic script and an amazing piece, and I'm so excited for you all to see it. Is that it? Was there more I should introduce?
That's fine. We'll talk about more stuff. I promise. Don't worry. We'll have stuff to talk about.
Great.
Even now,
Okay.
I want you to come on and basically, let's talk about the inspiration for TRUSpeak and what you brought to it and why I couldn't have done it without you. I mean, I'll say that, but
Well, you did try.
I couldn't.
But no, you had this because it goes back to what he always says at every single community, that he has fallen in love with Zoom. And we all know that Broadway was shut down, and all the actors and all directors and so on were pining for something to do. And Bob had a fundraiser he needed to do, and basically he said, let me put the two together and let's see what's possible. And my company and I have been in the space of local theater. I'm in Connecticut for a long time, so we know what theater is. I also happen to have fostered 2 kids who are into theater. And basically, I said, well, let's look at it, figure out what we can do. And what we did do in the first year was all with green screens, basically. But trying to break out
in isolation. Everybody filmed in isolation.
Yeah. So last year we had probably half of the plays that was done with green screen and using Zoom, and some or two were actually able to film in location. Some of them, most of them were with actually actors coming in at different times and then editing together. So it became quite clear, since one of the things I do is I stream theater, I edit, I produced as well. I'm an alumni of Dean Dubin's of like 3 different classes because I love her so much, and I think she's a great inspiration. I also have produced a couple of other plays through. So it was like, okay, I know how to do this. And apparently I don't, but basically.
Oh no, I think you do. So the one thing I want to say is the first year I'm not a tech whiz. I mean, I kind of get through it. But the one thing I said to everybody in the first meeting, the first production meeting in 2021 was, think beyond talking heads in frames. That was the one thing I wanted. I wanted to people to at least go beyond talking heads and frames. There were a lot of readings being done. People were doing readings right and left, and people were getting exhausted from it. And there is something to be said for a reading on Zoom. I mean, you actually get to focus on the face of the actors, and you can get a lot of emotion and a lot out of that. But for the plays that we were doing, I really wanted people to think creatively with Iben's inspiration and guidance. So I think the first question I want to bring up, because I think it's the major question, is, first of all, what's the difference between a play and a film? And second of all, if you film the play, what do you have to do in order to make a play into a film? I want the directors all to address how you approached it and what needed to be done, and what were the conversations like with the writers. And the writers who are here, if you want to jump in and say anything, let the directors talk first, but if you want to add something, please feel free to do that. Anybody want to take that on first? Scared the hell out of you, didn't I? Okay, Epiphany.
I will take a stab. Just straightforward. Film and theater being different mediums. Theater has to have, I believe it has to have at least some sort of audience. It can be an audience of one in a I get in a communal space. I don't even want to just say a theater because I love me some guerrilla theater. I love me that immersiveness. Yeah. And for socially distant specifically, I had two ideas that I initially pitched. One was completely adapting it for film, shooting on location. But then as a backup, I was like, I could do this in a theater. I think I really thought I could do this in a theater because there's something so spiritual about a theater. But just the idea of I could suspend my disbelief, but in a film medium, and with my vision, it didn't click. So it was like, no, we need to shoot on location, rain or shine. Yeah. Did I answer it all?
No, you gave some good answers. The thing I want to say, it was actually fortuitous that you were the first person to raise your hand, because of all the pieces, socially distant is probably so suited to being filmed, because it's a two-hander. It's about two people who meet online, who meet online and develop a relationship and decide they want to meet in person. So, of course, we could have found a way of them meeting through Zoom and make it seem like they were meeting in person. But I thought it was great that you decided to shoot on location. I thought that was the right choice. I think everybody shot location, actually. Iben, do you want to actually jump in and talk about a little bit about moving from having people be shot in isolation on green screens in their apartment, to whatever qualms or concerns you might have had about us moving into live shoots? We only had one live shoot last year, by the way. It was she's blown away. She's blown away.
She's blown away. I thought we had two, but
no,
you're probably right.
Yeah.
And I want to make this really short because I want to hear my directors, what they are, what they have learned from this. Because this is a development series, and we are trying to. The big difference for me between theater and film is the role of the playwright. In a film, the playwright writes a piece and hands it over, and then they have really very little to do with what happens on film. In theater, the playwright is the person that we are all trying to, show the vision, right? We are in service to that. So the big difference I saw by having to do this in almost perfect filming conditions this year was that how will that then play out? Because everything else feels like film, but we're still trying to hold the team together as if it's this hybrid thing where the playwright also has a say, where the playwright can go on set and be part of the editing process afterwards. So my concern was, do we have time? Do we have all the technical people? That was my job, to make sure we had all the technical people, because I know how long it actually takes to edit afterwards.
Well, this year, I want to say the one thing that even changed this year was we absolutely had to make sure we had a director of photography and an editor. Last year, we had a tech person. We had a tech person who kind of did as much of it as they were able to do. So that was a jump forward this year because of you, Iben. We were dedicated to getting a director of photography and an editor. And as you've pointed out, not everybody has both of those skills. You've said that to me, so would you like to elaborate on that a little?
No.
Oh, okay. Be that way. All right. So let's move to another one of the directors. Who else wants? I think I saw Ben accidentally raise his hand.
No, I didn't accidentally. I was actually raising my hand. Yeah. So, I think with film, first of all, I think plays can be adapted for film. Most plays can be adapted for film. Films can be adapted for theater. It really depends there are exceptions, but with film, you can jump from one scene to a next and to a completely different location that you can't do in theater. You can have scene changes, but those take time. For instance, if somebody goes, "Hey man, you really love bird watching, don't you?" Boom, he's in a park and there's birds and like binoculars, and then cut back, boom, to the conversation. You can't do that sort of thing in theater. So there's flexibility in locations. Also, film tends to like not have as many words. So there's silence. Like you can do a visual shot of something and not have to have words because it's self-explanatory. We had this whole thing of theater acting and film acting, and before, when there was before microphones, theater actors had to project, so you were naturally more animated and more physical. But now, like, because of microphones, it's very similar. There is a projection a little bit more. You have to do something so that someone in the back row can see it, and on film it can be very subtle. But my best lesson with this was I saw Frank Langella in Frost Nixon on Broadway, and I was sitting in the nosebleed seats, and they had cameras on him because they're interviewing him as Richard Nixon. So you see it on a big screen TV, and it's a close-up of him, right? So I'm in the last seat, so I'm looking down at him without the camera, and then also looking up at the screen. And he was completely natural, and it was subtle, and I saw every facial movement at the same time from a theater perspective and also on the screen. So I was like, he's not doing anything different, but just being real, So I think that that was like a big lesson. I had to mention that because it's always in the back of my mind. I'll also say with film, you can lead the audience in a different way. Like if you can't cut someone's face out on stage, if they're having a conversation, you see everything. But with film, you can like lead them to like, this is what you should be looking at right now more. And you can like not have the other person in the shot.
Well, that's a great point. That's a great point, Ben, because basically every theater director knows that part of their job is to focus the audience, and every theater director also knows that no two people in the audience are ever focused on the same thing, no matter what you do. You can generally guide the eye, but you can't really force them to look at any one thing. So absolutely, a film gives you the ability to direct the audience's attention to exactly what you want them to see. That is never going to happen on stage. Approximates sometimes, and you can kind of get a general feel of what the director is trying to do and where your focus is supposed to be, but can't be guaranteed. Jordan, you got your hand up now?
Yeah, I just wanted to say about that, or to go off of that, there's kind of an inverse problem as well that I found as I'm editing my film too, is that
your video is frozen. So try turning. Oh, there you're back now.
Is.
Yeah.
Good. Am I good now? Okay, sweet. So I was gonna say, no, is it still an issue?
I'm just wondering whether you would be better off with your video off and let's just use your audio.
Okay, let's see. Let's try. Is that any better?
Well, I mean, we can hear you. That's the point.
Great. Okay, I was just going to say that to go off Ben's point, there's kind of an inverse problem as well, that when you're editing, I find that when you're on the stage and you have everybody on the stage and all the characters in the play together, it's easy to be able to, as an audience, check in with any character you want whenever. Versus when you're directing it for film, you have to specify which characters that you want to choose and to focus on, and which characters and which expressions that you want to show, which can become a difficult problem to focus on. Because I know that one of the things that when I'm enjoying as an audience in theater, I like being able to look at every character on stage and view their reactions. But as the editor and as the director of this film, I kind of have to choose what's important. And I kind of also have to structure it in a way that it's not confusing, in the way that like I have to be able to establish space. I have to be able to establish where all the characters are in any given scene, and only cut to them whenever I think that their reactions are important, because otherwise it could just be wasted time. So there's there's definitely a benefit to be able to control what the audience sees at every single moment in the story. But there's also kind of a downfall in that you're not able to access every character's emotions or feelings or reactions to every single moment whenever you want, which is a freedom that you have in live theater as an audience member, to just avert your eyes to whoever you want to pay attention to in the moment. And that's something that is like, as a director, you have to sacrifice these people's performances, which are all brilliant, but you need to focus on one moment at a time, which can become kind of difficult, to be completely honest about it. Helps.
Thank you. Well said. And now you can, yeah, put your camera back on so that if you freeze, it won't matter as much now. So Miriam, talk about your experience with this and translating the play into film.
Yeah, this play, it had a lot of, like, I think one of the differences between film and theater, aside from the things that have been said, although this was touched on a little bit, is that film is a visual medium, and you tell the story through the pictures first and the words second, even if there's a lot of words. The theater tells the story through the words first and the picture second. And so Reprieve is a word first. It's words first. So even though it's a film, it does have a sense of theatricality with it because of just the way it's written. So I had an idea originally of doing it all in one take, so you felt like the audience, because the audience sits down, sees the whole play, and then it's over. And then that turned out to be not possible. So we did it with lots of takes from different angles, and thanks goodness I had wonderful director of photography, Matt Cohen. So it really looks like a film, but it sounds like theater. That's what I think ultimately happened.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because I actually still support the idea that there is such a thing as a hybrid, although it's a conversation that you can have endlessly with people. I mean, there are people who basically take the position, if it's filmed, it's no longer theater. It's, well, all right, but
well, there's something to that, because
I know, yeah,
because theater as a community happens in a space between performers and an audience, like that, and they're creating that together. And in a film, the artist has created everything and is showing it to the audience. Like, there's no communication between the performers and the audience in a film.
right.
What there is between in a theater, in a live, when the performers are live.
I mean, the extreme way of saying it is that in any theater performance, the audience is one of the characters. I mean, that's what people say, and it's true, and basically that's one of the things that you lose. You lose the spontaneity. I don't want to get into this yet. We'll come back to this I want Misti to have her say. So
thank you. I know, and I'm sorry I can't stay the whole time, but I just want to talk about the collaboration in the film, because it's so different from the way I work in theater. You know, in theater I have a musical director that's a partner, and working with the director of photography, Carly Santori, was amazing in really helping me dissect the script. You know, having that partner to go, this is a really interesting moment, and what are all the possibilities of how we could shoot this moment, was thrilling to me. And getting into that detail about, oh, I can really go into a close-up of Rosemary Howard's eyes when this thing happens, and having to play with all those parts of composition that we don't get to do in theater was really interesting to me. And we really went full force for a full, Carly calls it a feature. We did a 4-camera setup and got really detailed with what we shot, and we knew we were being ambitious, but we both committed to it, and that's why we're in editing probably for the next couple of days of our lives, 24 hours, but it's going to happen. And it already looks beautiful. We're doing great things, but I'm excited that we having that working that way and then sitting and editing together. And I agree with what Jordan was saying too, and Ben, that you're picking parts of a performance, which for me is so unusual. I feel like I'm taking from the actor in a totally different way, you know, where you let them go in a one take way. In theater, picking and choosing the moments that you want from different takes and what supports the character and the character journey has been a really fascinating process for me that I've really enjoyed making.
Well, that segues me into another aspect of this that I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about what it's like for a director to work with a director of photography. And let's talk about some of the nuts and bolts of what really is different about directing a film. I don't want to say it for you. So who wants to jump in? Okay, Jordan, you take it.
I'll say some of the elements that I needed to focus on in this that I've never come across in my directing career before is like focus. Who's in focus, who at what moment, and why. Like the choice to see who in what clear focus and at what specific moment is very important, to control exactly who has the foreground and who the audience should be able to talk to. Because genuinely, even if I'm using a take that was slightly out of focus, it kind of disrupts the reality of the moment a little bit. There's a difference between that and film and live theater that is never considered, because in live theater, there is no issue with focus or framing. There's the entirety of the performance being presented to you. But in film, like I remember when I was working with my director of photography, Layla Kilborn, and I was working on Guellen Kansas by Alex Goldberg, who's in the room, and a brilliant writer and a brilliant piece. But I remember working with her and being like, I remember there was moments where I needed to rack focus because I wanted one of my actors to be in focus for one line and then immediately for the next one for it to switch. There's also something that I wanted to
Okay, we've lost you.
There's something that you have to do when you approach your actors. Here, is that better?
Hopefully, we'll see.
Okay, great. I was just going to say there's something also that you have to focus about your approach to actors too, that is very different between live theater and film, is that for every single take in film, there needs to be some semblance of consistency between the performances. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to cut together, which is something that never needs to be worried about in live theater, to, you know, more likely than not. But yeah, so there are just certain elements that working with the director of photography that you need to focus, because their discipline is the mechanical of the camera, like the mechanics and the way that the machine operates, versus your skill set as a director, which is I know how to tell the story. So it was something that I really needed to give into her and trust her expertise and trust her experience. And we came together on the other side with a better product working together, I think, than if either of us had taken it solo.
I'm going to refine the question a little bit. I want to talk about shot lists. I want to talk about who did the shot list for your filming, and what did the director of photography contribute to that? Was everything what you thought it would be, or did you have to get some guidance from them saying, don't think this will work, or have you thought about doing it this way? What was the collaboration like? Ben, why don't we'll jump in with you, because I know you. I think you didn't you work with a director of photography that you already knew? Once you get yourself off, unmute yourself, then we can start this. You're still muted. Still muted. You keep working on that. We're gonna move to.
I got it. Okay. It was a different screen. I'm sorry. I'm usually doing this on a computer. So yeah, I'd never met this director of photography, and you can usually, when I've done music videos, because that's my main focus for my own music. And if that's where I've worked with the most directors of photography, because when I directed on Zoom, it was really just the actors placing their camera and framing them with their own cameras, and there wasn't somebody else filming other than we used the actors filming each other, you know, in a space. But you know, when I've worked with directors of photography, you know, they know more the technical aspect than me, and I like to hear what their point of view is, because it's maybe something I'm not thinking of. It's like a good director just like lets the actors, like, doesn't say what it should be before the actors, allows the actors to play first, because there may be something that they bring to it that the director like never thought about. So this guy, Carolyn Brown, our producer, recommended him, and I looked through his reels, which that's what I know how to do, because when I'm looking for my own director's photography, that's what I do. And I could tell from his reel that he was phenomenal. Like, I was just like, this guy's, we're so lucky to have him. I know he's going to know how to frame things. And then we talked about the script. We talked about, how do you see this? We talked about location, because that was, you know, until we found the location and we knew what we were looking at, like, we couldn't really do anything. We can be like, oh, we're going to shoot the actor this way. But the location was a very big part of it, and the lighting in the location, and we shot during the day and it's supposed to be at night, so we had to do between the windows and things like that. And so as far as shot list goes, you know, it's pretty simple in the sense of like, I know we need this shot, and I know we need the other shot, I know we need a wide shot, I know we need some close-ups from this angle and that angle, and there was two action shots where there's movement. Other than that, it's two people sitting at a bar. And I knew that if we got all that coverage, like the whole thing from all these different angles, the whole thing could be made in the editing room. You know, that's where, you know, I know if I give all this footage to two different editors, it's going to be a totally different piece, you know, if I let them do their thing. So our shot list was really like, make sure we do it this way, make sure we do it that way, make sure we get a wide, make sure there's a close-up, make sure, you know, that was really what we talked about. And right now he's editing, so you know, we're you know, that's where the whole thing is going to be made, really. You know, we have everything there. We know we have everything. I know I have all the performances, you know, the way I want them in different specific shots, but it's really, you know, now it's the editing is really where it's at.
Thanks. I know that Iben wants to say something about this, but I just want to know, do my other directors want to talk a little bit about their collaboration with their director of photography? Miriam, you had your hand up.
Sure, yeah, I will. We didn't find Matt until pretty late in the process, and I was struggling to make a shot list because I have never done a film before, and it was a struggle for me to like wrap my head around how to do that. And I hung on to my idea of a single shot for a really long time, even though a lot of people were like, I don't know if that's gonna work, Miriam, but I really wanted it to work. And Matt had equipment that might have been able to do that. It would have been a little rocky, but what I ended up doing was like, in explaining to Matt my idea, I sort of cut the play up into acts, like act 1, when the children are running and they have a conversation. Act 2, the man's monologue. Act 3, the conversation between the boy and the man. And Act 4, when grandma comes in, and the conclusion. And so then we sort of like thought about in that way. And when we had to use a different location, and I scouted a fantastic location, and the day that we had to film, it poured. And so we knew, since we had the weather reports, that the forecast, that we knew we couldn't shoot on that day. We shot the day before in a completely different location. And so in that location, there wasn't, even if Matt had been able to use his like equipment to do the one shot way that I was still holding on to in some ways, there wasn't space. There wasn't the physical space to move a person around the action. And so I relied on Matt to, like, he and I worked together in the moment, kind of on the fly, like, let's do it from here. Can we put the camera here? Are we allowed to go and stand in this kind of pseudo garden thing? Maybe we can. And then so he helped me shoot it. He shot it from lots of different directions, and he is so experienced that he did what Ben was just describing. He got the coverage from lots of different ways, so that then when we were able to hand it over to the editor had a lot of different choices, and he filmed it in a very high DPI. He filmed it in the highest way you can film it, so that then the editor could zoom in on a part of the frame and it would still be in focus. So our collaboration was me flailing around trying to become a filmmaker, and Matthew like carefully holding me and guiding me into the proper way to do it.
So you'd say he came in handy.
He's amazingly handy. And then we found this amazing editor in Oakland, California, who just did a really great job putting together what we were able to give him.
Yeah, I think that it's fair to say that doing, as a director of film, you have a lot more collaborative components than you might otherwise have if you're doing a live theater. Although, I mean, you're collaborating with all of the design team in theater too, so it's just different. It's different collaborators.
Yes, Lee has reminded me that I should say the name of our fabulous editor, who is Ernie Ernstrom.
Okay, and Matt is your DP,
Matt
right?
With the DP, yeah.
Okay. Did everybody talk about your? Did I have all five of you talk about your collaboration? Did Epiphany?
No,
did you talk about it? Do we?
You didn't.
I did not. So it was definitely a team effort. My DP, Caleb Morgan, and our editor and I, our editor is Sam Cassover. We kind of had like a general meeting of what my vision was, and then we were like, all right, we definitely have to get these shots for sure. To kind of feel theater-esque, I wanted to get a lot of full body two shots, because I really love the idea of, I want to see both their reactions in at the same time. Yeah, we talked about it. So yeah, and then we as a surprise, we scheduled a meeting to do the full shot list, and they were like, "Look, we already have a really nice draft. Let's just go through it." And I said, "Yeah, let's go through it and let's talk about it." And they actually added a couple of shots that enhanced the story, and then there were some things that were like, okay, so because we're going to do this, we need to take this out because that changes something story-wise. But it was a great time. And but yeah, it's just you know how we go from like page to stage, from shot list to from shot list to location.
Yeah.
That's a different thing, because sometimes it's like, all right, so this is our location and the shot needs to be wide, but now here's the sun beaming down and it's messing up my it's messing up my vision. So how do we move from there? But yeah, it was a great time, and now it's all coming together in the editing room. Yeah.
I just want to state for everybody in the room that this was all done on almost no budget. So there are ways of doing these things by spending a lot more money where you could probably wait until the sun goes down or stops shining on that shot. But you're limited by not only your budget, not only the requirements of filming. There's just so many limitations that you guys all overcame all these limitations, and you've managed to create 5 viable films that we're going to see on June 4th. Iben, a little bit from you now about the job of the director of photography.
Well, I want to combine what everybody has said, basically, and another big change between doing theater and doing film is that there's a lot more pre-planning, as in because you have the scenario of it's almost like one and done. I mean, you film and then you can't change. It's not livable and breathing as in, well, if we try this instead, we block it over there, we put you in coming in from left instead of right. That's not really happening if you're not already pre-planned it and it's in your shot list. So your shot list is what you live by. And then when you have the great team that I hope you all have, you know, with the various skills, you are then also able to say, okay, plan B, what do we do now? Because the shot is coming in here now, or we didn't get this shot in time, or there's an airplane flying over right in the middle of when you're supposed to be quiet, you know. So all of that, it's a different set of technical challenges.
Well, it's a less controlled environment than you have in theater. You have a much more controlled environment in theater. Clearly,
that's correct. Yes.
So
generally with a film, you say that you make the film gets made 3 times. It's written, it's filmed, and then it's edited. And it can end up as, you know, you're over here, and then before you're done, you're over here, and then it's back over here. It's all what is so wonderful about film is that it's you can take the same footage, re-edit it, and get up with a completely different cut. That it gives a different feel.
So we've lost a couple of our people. I think that Misti had to leave. I'm not sure who else. Oh no, Ben's still here. Good. So one other element that I wanted to bring into this was the fact that we assigned a producer to each of the shows. And what was the collaboration like with the producer? How does the producer fit into it so that people in the room can think about what they want to do and how they want to do it? Let's start with Jordan. How was your producer?
I remember Amy was a great producer. Sorry if there's an echo again.
That's okay, but we can hear you at least.
Great. Amy was a great producer, and I remember me and Alex had a lot of discussions about what the story is as the writer and as the director, and about what parts that we wanted to change, specifically when we were switching it from being in a theater to on location. And Amy, our producer, was very much responsible for being the link of communication between us as the artistic team and between you and Iben, Bob, between like the theater company and anything that we were given in terms of resources or limitations. Amy was sort of our link to create or to communicate directly to you guys, pretty much. So she was our link to kind of our foundation and our support, and that was her major responsibility, while me and Alex focused on just playing the story, and that was it. So she was very, very good at handling all of the logistical issues that we needed her to, so that we could focus on the story.
Well, hopefully, you know, I'd like to think that the team that we put together, I didn't say it completely before. We have a producer, a director, a writer, a director of photography, and a technician, and that's the teams that we did our best to put together. Sometimes they happened later than others. We were able to get some of these pieces in place early, and some of it came in later. But I feel like all of those roles are important. Epiphany, how about you and your producer? How do you like working with your producer? I think you were working with a Tony winner, weren't you?
I'm working with Katie.
Yeah.
Yes, love Katie. Everything that Jordan said, the liaison, but also Katie was a great resource for helping to get the actors. Why am I gonna flub their last names? But Ali Ewald. Yes.
And Alice, it's no, it's not Alex Boniello, is it? No, that's an. Oh, it's Alex Boniello, who is Connor in Dear Evan Hansen. I mean, we have like very familiar names in some of these plays. I just love, and Allie has done Broadway stuff. She's done Les Mis and she's done Phantom.
Yeah. So Katie knows Allie from another project, and Katie and Alex, they have the same reps. So she came through.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah,
I haven't met Alex. I've only seen his very intriguing photo. Was he fun to work with?
Yes, I have photos to send y'all. I have photos to send y'all.
Okay, good. So let's see. Ben, how about your relationship with Carolyn?
So usually I'm used to like choosing my own producer or being chosen by a producer. So this is great. It's great to be like someone just says, "This is your producer," and you don't know if it's going to work out or not. And luckily, I got someone that was great, and Carolyn Brown. She's awesome, and she helped. We had a production meeting, and she helped organize that and get everyone on the same page. And she brought Joshua Santora, who's our DP, in. She introduced him to me and helped find locations, and just kept things moving. And yeah, it's pretty simple. She's easy to work with. I highly recommend everybody work with her. So that that's really it. I mean, she's easy to work with. She's a nice person, which is important because we all ultimately want to do this because we want to work with people that make our day pleasant.
Oh man, that's the mantra in this business. You don't have to work with people you don't like. Work with people that are easy to work with. Work with people that you like, if you possibly can. And it really is possible. Do we have any questions from the room, Owen, or any comments that people want to make? Anybody want to raise a virtual hand and come in and okay, John Ewing, what do you want to ask us?
One question I have is I would respectfully disagree with Miriam a little bit in terms of theater people feeling like it's solely between the actors on stage and the audience, because one thing that I hadn't seen us address today is the live capture of a theatrical presentation, because that's one aspect in my,
and I love that.
Yes, to me that's similar to the teleplays like The Cosby Show, Seinfeld, Golden Girls, which are essentially plays because you have the performers and you have a studio audience, and they're just 30-minute plays, to be honest with you. And then you have the feature films that are adapted from a stage play, like Dear Evan Hansen, Fences. That's what they're getting ready to do with The Piano Lesson or Raisin in the Sun. But on American Son is a live capture of the Broadway presentation as well as what the Constitution does to me. So it's just like a book. You can adapt a feature from a book. So there's two different things. And I think when you add in the television aspect, it allows the brand to grow. So I think the IP can be exploited in a multitude of different ways. You can do the live capture of the project, and you can do a feature film. And I'll just say this: it reminds me of when the film industry did not want to let VCRs in. They wanted them to stay illegal. And actually, the gentleman that was representing the film companies, it went to the Supreme Court, and it barely won 5-4. He said that the VCR is to the film industry what the Boston Strangler is to women home alone. They actually said this. So to me, I feel like a lot of people cannot afford to access theater. I don't know why.
So we've gone a lot around a lot of different topics here. The only thing I want to say is I think that Miriam's main point was that one of the differences between theater and film is that in theater, the audience actually does interact with the people on stage, and there is no such thing as the same performance of a play. Every play performance is different. The thing that you gain in film is consistency. You have a property. It's there. It's consistent. Nobody's going to flub their lines. It's on film now. There's not going to be any more spontaneous things happening that you're not expecting. And the other advantage of film, for that reason, is that it's got a shelf life. Plays are very they're just very ephemeral. They come and go. The film is there and it's always there. In this situation, by the way, if everybody doesn't know this, we did this under the SAG-AFTRA micro budget agreement, and that allows us to spend very little money. Forgive me, all of you. I know you hate me for it, but but it also has a lot of flexibility to it. You can actually you can do several weeks. We were able to stream this for like several weeks after the performance, and you're allowed to have. You don't have to destroy these films. These films are allowed to have a life beyond that. You're allowed to submit them to film festivals and things like that. So you have a property. It's a tangible thing with a film that you don't have with theater. So that's one of the advantages. There are advantages and there are disadvantages. Some people are diehard theater lovers, and they're not going to even venture into film, and other people love film and can't understand why people would go into theater. I love them both, so that's why I love hybrid. Iben, what did you want to say?
Well, I want to say after June 4th, where we're going to do TRUSpeak, right?
Yeah.
On June 5th, we are actually going to stream the opening night of a brand new play that's being played at the New Ohio. So it's the medium is just expanding. We can live stream, we can live capture, which is two different things, because live capture means there's an editing. Live stream means it's actually going out as it's happening. So we're just at the forefront of this. And I want to say to John, one of the big differences you were talking about when you were talking about these TV shows is that TV is always more than one camera. So that's more or less what Misti and Carly decided to do. Because the big difference is normally with film is one camera, and you change the camera using the same camera, but you change the angle, like what Miriam's director of photography did on Reprieve. But with TV, it's more like video. You have multiple cameras, and you're seeing the same action from different angles. And a good friend of mine, Ralph Lewis from A Peculiar Works Project, is actually trying.
I think Ralph's here, isn't he?
Okay, he's trying to put all things together. There's 3 pieces that has been scripted, has been filmed, and they will be shown together as a trilogy, but have live actions in between. So, and we're going to capture that too, So it's going to be, like a double or triple. I think we're just at the forefront of beginning to figure out what we can actually do with this. Now it's affordable.
The little detail that we have, could you actually explain what B-roll is? Because we didn't talk about that at all.
No, we didn't. And I said B-roll basically is that you're allowing the viewers to see something that doesn't necessarily mean that it's part of the story, but it explains the story. So there's no lines necessarily in B-roll, but you put it over lines perhaps. It can be just you're seeing the character saying something, looking at the window, and the next thing you see is that you actually see what the character is looking at. That's a B-roll. And then you go back to seeing the character talking again. So we have options, and I'm loving being in this field right now. I wish I was 10 years younger so I could, go there and do all of this myself all the time.
And I think Lee Roscoe had her hand raised. So Lee, did you want to say something? Lee was the writer who worked with
a couple of people have already said it about what Irving was or whatever, the guy talking about the TV situation. That's expensive. I mean, there's only so much you can do on a tiny little budget. You can't have multiple cameras. You can't.
Guys, we're talking about a tiny budget.
Yeah, so I mean it's really kind of pie in the sky to suggest that we could have gone that route. The other thing I did want to mention is, I think Miriam covered, but the big difference between theater and film for me is theater is about language and character development, and film is visual. When Janet Murphy Robertson and I created Dreams from a Planet in Peril, we had to hybridize between theater and film, because it's largely the 4 plays are largely character driven, but we we enhance them with a lot of B-roll and style and, different modes of framing for the characters and the language, which would enhance them so that they did remain theatrical, but they were enhanced by the dimensions that film can give to a theater piece. And that's what I find so exciting. Theater actually can still live on film, but be enhanced by some of the filmic techniques that have come into being with this new age.
Yeah, the experience of a film play and a stage play is always going to be different, but hopefully we capture something that's genuine about them when we do it on screen, and hopefully there's value in both of them. I believe that there is. So, are there any other questions from the room? Any other comments or anything?
We had a question from RK.
Okay.
Asking what's next for these films, theater versions, full-length features, etc.
What we didn't talk about is the fact that some of the plays in the first year and some of the plays last year, we were given permission by SAG and AFTRA. I had to sign a waiver, and the people that created the films were allowed to submit them to film festivals. And one of them from last year, Obstacle, has won 2 acting awards for Danny Bolero in various film festivals, and it's been accepted into 3 or 4 or 5 other film festivals. It's really having a life in the film festival circuit right now, and some of the others are as well. I think Slave Trade is, and I think Change of Mind from the first year is getting some play. Again, that's the advantage of filming these things. You have a permanent piece of a product. You have a tangible product that you can actually do something with, rather than close the show and take down the scenery and burn it. So that's it. There's advantages and disadvantages on both sides. And like I said, I love both forms, and I feel very grateful that we have an opportunity to work with both forms now. We call it hybrid. I call it hybrid. Some people wouldn't say it's so hybrid. It's like once it's filmed, it's filmed. If you keep it as a play, it's a play. But I still think of it as a world of hybrid. It's thinking in both terms, which I highly recommend. I think it's a great thing. By the way, speaking of B-roll, even last year, one of the films at least was almost entirely B-roll. It was the Cold Bread was just images that all expanded on the basic text, and
Yes.
Which is just another. This is the word to the room: creativity. When you're given a challenge like this, take a play and make it into a film. Creativity it gives you the opportunity to think in so many different ways. There probably are 100, 300, 500 different ways of doing each one of these plays. And the director that you have with us now had a vision that was a specific choice that might have been different from somebody else's choice. And we'll see I haven't seen them yet. So we're going to see the results on June 4th. I hope everybody will join us. Did that answer RK's question? I think, unless you guys have something specific that you're thinking about in terms of what you want to do with these plays after June 4th. Were you even thinking of it yet? You're just hoping to get to June 4th.
No, I'm definitely thinking about film festivals. Definitely, absolutely film festivals.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I want to get to June 4th and then also do my research on film festivals, because even though I've filmed shorts, I've never done the let's put them in festivals type of deal. So yeah, I'd have to do my research and see what Phil wants to do, because it's his baby. So, yeah.
Well, that is what Lynn Borders, who was the director of Obstacle of Danny Bolero last year. That's what he's doing. He has basically decided he wanted to put it into film festivals and submitted everyone that's in the creative process. But I have to say, in terms of film festivals, not every film festival is created equal. So be careful. You can go broke by submitting to film festivals. You need to be very, very careful about which one you're choosing. Some have very specific aims. Some doesn't even show your film. So others are for places where you actually meet physically and show it, and meet producers, potential producers that are gonna distribute of your film. And some festivals will actually pay you money to redo your film in a better way or enhance it in a better way. So it is it's a whole new market.
To go back to the SAG-AFTRA micro budget contract, just so everybody understands this, these films can't be used for commercial purposes. They can be submitted to film festivals, but the assumption is that nobody's getting profits from this. I have some of the editors wanting me to sign a contract saying that they'll get 20% of all the profits that we make from the future of the plays. It says, well, there's nothing to make. I mean, that would be a whole new contract. You basically, if you want to go to that next level, you have to renegotiate an agreement with SAG-AFTRA that'll allow you to do that. Right now, we can't make money off of these films.
And I also think it's important to say that this is really a development tool, as in it's a fundraiser tool, first of all, for TRU,
Yes.
and it's also a development tool of the people in the teams, probably very much so for the producers too, because some of the producing challenges you get when you're running a team on a guerrilla budget. I use that phrase a lot. It's kind of similar to these things you're gonna get up against when you're producing a theater play. It's much of this is about people. It's about solving technical challenges, yes, and they're different, some of them, but much of it is about let's build this team and let's make it to the end.
Well, thank you, Iben. I think I'm going to say a few parting words, and then we're going to hopefully everybody will stay for a little while and we can talk a little bit more, but that's up to you. But excuse me as I go into speaker view. Hello, I'm in speaker view now. Hi, YouTube viewers, and hi, podcast listeners. This is Bob Ost, and I wanted to just thank you for being with us today. And if you want to be in the room and you want to actually ask questions or be part of the conversation, which we'd love to have you, it's not hard. Just email me. It's really easy. Just email trunltd@aol.com, trunltd@aol.com. Tell me that you want to come to the Zooms, and I'll send you the link every week. Every week, I promise. This is like, I told you, this is 156 consecutive weeks. Planning on keeping this going, I don't know, forever. Or as long as we can do it, as long as we can keep it up. As long as people keep coming, and as long as people are interested in what we're doing, we'll keep doing it. The other thing is, this started as a public service back when shutdown hit. This is basically, it was a way of helping a lot of desperate artists be a little less desperate and just be in a room and talk to each other. So this is a pay what you can situation. And it's still pay what you can. However, as you know, this entire discussion today was about a benefit that we have coming up on June 4th, which is basically the one major fundraiser we have for the year. So it would be great if everybody would buy tickets for our June 4th benefit. You can get the tickets at TRUSpeak Tix, TRUSpeaktix.com, TRUSpeak Tix. That'll take you to the page. You'll get to see the casts and the directors and the writers and all the plays and what all we're going to do. We also have special appearances by Tonya Pinkins, Joanna Gleason, and Austin Pendleton, and probably others as well. So it's going to be a nice evening, and I think you'll have fun. We have it's followed by an after party, a virtual after party, and that's going to be set up with 5 breakout rooms, one for each of the plays. So you as an audience member can go through the breakout rooms and meet the different teams and talk about the different plays and let them know what you liked and let them know what questions you have. So that's it. And if you want to donate to TRU, trudonate.com, trudonate.com. Again, thanks for being with us. Hopefully we'll see you in the weeks to come. And that's it for today.